Hello, welcome to emilykatemadethis. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. Welcome to my knitting slash sometimes sewing and general crafty YouTube channel. Where do we start? I think this will be quite a short episode because I really haven't done much knitting. Did a lot of cleaning, but not knitting. But I do have one finished object to show you. I have a finished object, a kind of half finished object, and some knitting plans and thoughts and ideas. Because yeah, for some reason I have all the ideas, all the things I know I want to make, all the plans, Ravelry galore, and I just don't really feel like knitting, which is kind of weird. I think it's because all the projects involve just rib stitch and I just don't feel like knitting rib stitch, and it is the only thing that I have to do. I'll get onto that in a minute. Let's start with finished object. And I always have this problem where I can't show you what I'm wearing because there's a plant behind me. Let's give it a go. Ta-da! I have a red top underneath, so you can kind of see it. So this is my finished tee. There's no pattern for this one, I just made it up because it was supposed to be a different pattern and I did these too thick, so I decided, I know what I'll do, I'll make a boat neck tee. It came out actually smaller than I expected, but the size I had wanted, if that makes sense. When I was knitting I thought, this looks really big and it's going to be too big, but actually it came out like just the right size. So, whew. There's only one thing that confuses me slightly. I have made 3 tees very similar to this, except they've all ranged in sizes. The very first one I made was a white one, and I just followed the pattern for that, and it came out so enormous. I'm still trying to figure out how to style it because I don't want to rip it out because it's really pretty, but it is just massive, so it kind of needs to be tucked into things, but a lot of my clothing is quite tight, so there's no room to tuck it in. So I'm still working on that. I know it has potential. It can go under some kind of dungaree outfit or a skirt that has an elasticated waistband or something, but yeah, working on that. Basically, that one came out huge and it ends around here. Then I made another one in smaller size, but it still came out a bit bigger, but the neckline kind of sits a bit lower, but it is a superwash yarn and it is a more drapey yarn, I suppose, and it's a lace pattern, whereas this one sits very high and kind of, I don't know, it did drop a bit when I first put it on after blocking. It was here and it didn't bother me exactly. It's not a super scratchy yarn. I just thought, how come it's so much higher than my other ones? But actually with body heat it has started to get a bit lower. But I don't really mind that. I find it a bit weird that it puckers up a bit when the other ones didn't, but it's more of a curiosity thing. And I'm happy with it. I have mixed feelings on how the process was. I cast on and it was great, and it's Woolyknit cones. I can't show you them because they're in the freezer, more on that later, but it's a Woolyknit cone in the Aran colour and I can't remember this colour, and I knitted it on 3mm needles, and I started the body in the round, and it was going super fast and I was whizzing around and I thought, this is great, and I was watching movies and didn't have to think about anything, and then I started to go flat for after the arms I had to add extra stitches and then go flat, and then it just took forever. It really didn't take that long, but it felt like it did. And it was knitting and then purling, knitting and purling and changing colours, and for some reason I just kind of lost enthusiasm. Then my mum came to visit for my birthday and she knitted the welt, or the ribbing for this. Thank you, mother, because it took her about 4 or 5 evenings, and it was 2.25mm needles, and there was just no way that I would have had the motivation to do that anytime soon. So thank goodness, because once she had done that and I saw it starts to look like an actual, it's starting to look like a jumper, I got some refreshed interest. So then I could cast on the back, and it took a really long time to get the motivation, but I did. And whilst I was knitting this, I discovered some really lovely YouTube channels, and they were like Japanese, or there's a woman, I think she's Vietnamese but lives in Germany, and they have these beautiful YouTube videos that are like, I'm gonna get this wrong, ASMR. Basically you hear the sound of the water coming out of the teapot into the cup, you hear the little chink of a cup and saucer, you hear the bread being cut, like it's really soothing. And they had subtitles in English, so I was kind of learning how to knit and read and knit and not look whilst doing this. So by the time I got to the end I was kind of sad because it was finished. So I can't knit colourwork jumpers or socks or anything and read subtitles. So now I kind of want to make another one, which I'll get to a little bit later. But in general, I'm really happy with it. I like the colours. I've never knitted a stripy jumper before, unless you count my bow jumper. That one is kind of stripy, sort of. And yeah, I like the colours. I do like this wool in that it's very thin and lightweight, so I like how I don't really feel like I'm wearing it. It's a nice warmth, gives you a nice warmth while not being too thick and bulky, because I love oversized clothes. I love the look of them and how comfortable they are, but I have a beautiful bunny jumper that I made, I think 3 years ago, maybe 2. I modified it. It wasn't like a skillful understanding of how to change a pattern. I had no idea what I was doing. Now I think I would get a better fit, and I am considering making another one, but I made this bunny jumper and there's so many rabbits, and it's in a very like thick and fluffy and heavy wool, and when I sit down, it's a yoke sweater, all the yoke just bunches up and sits like in this huge ridge, and I feel just engulfed by bunny rabbits. It sounds delightful, but it isn't. It's quite annoying having all this excess fabric, but then when I stand up it's fine, and if I go for a walk it's fine, and everything about it is fine until I sit, and then all the fabric just climbs up and it's really irritating. And I also struggle with that jumper in that the yarn was purchased for the fact that it was Corriedale, and I had heard that this was marvellous wool, but I'm still not convinced that that is actually Corriedale wool, because it doesn't look like anything I've ever seen on anyone else's projects when they've mentioned it's Corriedale. So I don't know. It's really fluffy and really itchy and really warm. It's very soft, like when you do this with it, it's really soft, but actually if you get slightly warm, you get really itchy. And I don't tend to. I can wear plutalopi and let loopy and it's totally fine. So I don't know what it is about this one, but yeah, you get really hot really fast. So it was supposed to be an Easter jumper, but it's kind of an inappropriate temperature because it's so, like, Easter can be kind of in a really warm time of the year, because generally here in April, end of April, we can be in the 25-degree area and of temperatures. That was a weird way of saying that. It can be about 25 degrees or 20 degrees in April at Easter, when Easter sometimes is. And I think it's 22 this weekend. It's just way too warm to wear that jumper. So I have to wear my bunnies in the winter, even though they're meant for Easter. Which I wanted just to briefly mention. I did tell you I was going to cast on the bunny jumper by, I can't remember the actual name of it, The Petite Knitter, the Sadie jumper, I think it is. It's got bunnies on. My friend gifted me the pattern so we could knit it together, and I said I was going to knit it for this Easter, but then she couldn't do it this year, and I'm thinking I will hold off as well, because although I have the yarn, I think I'll run into the same problem of it being too warm. So I'm actually thinking I might do it in a cotton and wool blend, or a superwash blend and make it a lightweight sweater. Because I do have a superwash yarn somewhere here that I have no purpose for, and that could be its purpose. Gosh. Don't know how I got onto that at all. So yes, that's what I'm wearing. That is the finished object, and I am very happy with it. And I will tell you what I have planned. When I was in the UK last year, I came across this pattern in a charity shop, and I would like to give it a go. Sorry if it's reflecting. I haven't decided. It's very similar to what I'm wearing, but it has more of a U shape rather than a boat neck. And I do have to make sure that I don't make it go too far out, because if it goes out here, it'll fall off my shoulders, and that really annoys me. So I have to figure out how to make sure I don't do that. But there is a stripy option or a slip stitch option. So that is a plan for some more of this Woolyknit yarn, because I have a lot and it seemed to work. I just don't want to knit the whole thing flat, because it's just not very fun. It's not a bouncy yarn. It really doesn't have much give at all. So, and it doesn't block for me personally, potentially because of the hard water here in Berlin, I'm not sure. It doesn't look any different when you block it than when you just knit it, like at all. So it doesn't fluff up. So I'm thinking of holding it double, and maybe not for the first round of this, maybe for another one of these, holding it double and changing the gauge so that it is a bit thicker, because this was 28 stitches on 3mm needles and 10.5 rows per 2.5 centimeters. So it was a lot of knitting to get just slightly further. What else? I have an obsession with slip stitch and with the bunny ear pattern. I don't know if you remember, but and if you were here during Christmas, but I finished my festive bunny pullover. It was my first Vlogmas episode, I think, and then I'm not sure if I ever mentioned it outside of Vlogmas, so I probably should have done that. Anyway, it looks like bunny ears, but it's a colour work. It's not the rainbow, but it's a bunny ear. I'll try and put a picture. I'm thinking of making this style of tee again, but instead of just stripes, doing the bunny ears in different colours. Potentially with cotton, because I have quite a lot of cotton, and it would be really fun to have like a rainbow bunnies in cotton in a tee like this. But I do know that cotton can like sag, and I don't want a saggy neckline, so I'll have to think about that. I recently discovered a technique to help any ribbing from stretching out, where you knit into the back of the knit stitch, and you can either purl as normal or purl into the back of the stitch. There's no way I'm going to do full-on twisted knits and purls for 4 inches. No, no. Or 10 centimetres of that. No thank you. I have no problem with knitting into the back of a knit stitch. It's basically the same as a normal knit stitch. But doing all of that with a purl, So that's apparently supposed to help keep the ribbing more intact. And additionally could add some shearing elastic to help keep the ribbing together. So I might do that because that sounds fun, aside from the whole ribbing part. And yeah, basically using this pattern and then potentially using some more of this yarn to make one of these patterns. That's my current thoughts. I also want to do a cotton rainbow jumper, but it will likely be more of a cotton / wool version because of the texture of the stitch. I think it's just going to look a bit strange in cotton, and I don't have enough cotton. I would have to buy it, and I already own cotton wool blend, so I want to try that. So lots of ideas, it's just they just don't seem to be coming onto my needles. I'm currently at this stage of my Bestway flower jumper. That's all I've managed to muster. My mum has knit the body in the rib, but I don't want to start doing the colour work and doing all the maths until I have an idea of what the gauge is going to be like, because I have not knit with this yarn before. So I definitely was a bit overexcited, and we just cast on a random amount for the body based off of my previous vintage knits and just assumed it's gonna be fine. I really hope it's gonna be fine. And then I will do about another 2.5 centimetres of this. Then I will go into just flat stockinette. Then I can use this as my gauge swatch and I can see what the gauge is looking like. Then I could do the calculations for the body, because that one has colour work and I just don't want to rip all of that out. So this is kind of my gauge swatch, but I have to get the ribbing done first, and it's 2 evenings to do this. I just got so bored, which is really weird because I enjoy knitting. I don't know how I can get bored doing something I really enjoy, but hey ho, it happened. So hopefully I can get some work done on this. But I'm desperately trying to get further along on my Forest Berry cardigan, which I have not picked up in months. I've been talking about it regularly and nothing has happened. I have to do another 2 or 3 inches of ribbing, and yes, same story, different project. I just don't want to. So it's just not happening, and it has to happen. I'm hoping I'll get enthusiastic once I have passed that and I can get onto the texture. I suppose it depends on how I enjoy it. But I really want to finish it in time for my trip to Stockholm in April, which is getting quite close. And I started this, I think I started it in December or maybe January, and I genuinely thought I would finish this in time to wear to Stockholm. I've done the sleeves, except this top half because that's all joined together with the pattern, but I may or may not get that finished depending on my enthusiasm. We'll see. And yeah, I also tried to cast on another summer or spring, early summer t-shirt, and I just can't get the motivation to physically cast it on. I think if it was already cast on, I would be fine to keep just to knit. But casting on 200 stitches, I'm just doing literally anything else than doing it. It's like a different personality within me. I don't know who she is, but she's annoying me because I want to knit and I'm not. It's weird. What else? My egg socks. I funnily enough decided I wouldn't get second sock syndrome, so I cast on the second sock, and now both of the socks are stuck in the same place. I showed you the first one, I think, last time. It's all a bit of a mess. I've got 3 colours going, and this, I am halfway through a row. Genius. And I can't balance everything. This is the sock. And it looks really strange when it's not blocked. And it just wants to focus on my face, so here it is. I'm trying out the new technique, and I think it's working quite well. I'm going to put this down. This is it blocked. The new technique is working quite well to stop the ladders going all over the show, where you basically move the stitches over every time you go to change the magic loop. You then move like 3 or 4 of the stitches over along with it, so that it never has to jump over a gap. I might have explained it better in my last video, and I definitely linked below the YouTube video that explains that completely. But I'm enjoying that, the technique. I'm really struggling with the 3 colours because it involves a lot of twisting, which then makes the sock a bit... You don't want to twist the yarns too often in a colourwork sock because it will make the fabric too tight, but you also don't want to do it like not enough, because the long floats can then get like weirdly misshapen sock. For me, at least in the way I do it, I can't then get the sock over my foot. But when you're carrying 3 colours along, you're constantly having to move all of the colours together, and it's not very fun. But the finished sock looks so cool, and I just get the feeling that if I don't do the 3 colours all the way down to the toe, I'll end up casting on another pair in the future because I'll want that sock. So I might as well just grin and bear it and do it now, because they're going to look really cool so long as I actually finish them. I thought that I was about to start the heel now, but actually there's another repeat to go, then the heel, and then the foot. So they won't be done in time for Easter, which was the plan, but hey, hey. There's no rush with knitting. It's just you knit when it feels good, and I'm not forcing anything. I will knit them, I will finish them, but I'm just taking the pressure off because there really is no need to force it. I have both cast on, they're both in the same place, so I will continue on the one I have and add those eggs. Maybe I'll do the heel, then I'll do the eggs on the other one, do the heel, then I'll do the eggs for the foot, and I'll just chop and change, and hopefully that will keep me interested and motivated, because I was toying with the idea of just doing a plain foot, but I just know that I will want the whole thing filled with eggs because it looks so cool. And my next socks will definitely not be 3 colours in a row at all. And the yarn I'm using for that one is Keats Garn. She's a German hand dyer, and the other 2 are Filcolana Arbetta sock. My next project that I was just mentioning just now, I want to cast on a summer spring tee, but I've been humming and hawing for about, could even be 2 years by now. Yeah, I think it actually might be. I wanted to make this plant lady tee, but I think when I cast it on originally, I discovered that the yarn did not work at all, that you couldn't see the lace. And then a bit later on I got into vintage knitting, and then I really realised I don't want massive oversized tees because I just get engulfed in fabric and I just don't like it. I like how it looks on other people, but not on me. So I had purchased this yarn to make that plant lady tee, and I picked up the pattern the day before yesterday and thought, you know what, it's going to take so much maths to try and take out sections and figure out what. I don't want it so big, I just want it to be about the size of the Mount Pleasant tee. I think it's by Pippin. Everything is here, I don't know why I bother. So I do want to knit that tee, but not yet. I want to take basically the tee section of it, but instead of the tiny little lace part that's on it, I want to do the oak tank leaf pattern instead. So going to eventually cast on for the oak tank lace in this and knit up until the arm decreases or arm holes. Then I will turn it into the Mount Pleasant tee, and then I'll have used this yarn that I've had for ages. I don't even remember what her name, the Flying Kiwi, but I think it's in German. Oh, I can't remember. I bought this yarn at the wedding wool weekend a couple of years back, and it's just sitting there, and I really want to use it. I love the colour and I want to use it. That is the plan. Again, everything I keep thinking I want to get that done for Sweden. Highly unlikely, but there we go. You may notice, possibly, depending how blurry this is, I mentioned last time that I had found moth damage, and I'm not 100% sure if it was a moth because I took some very blurry pictures and I put it on my thumb and took a picture of it and sent it to a couple of friends, and they both agreed it looks more like a carpet beetle or some kind of beetle rather than a moth. And I definitely don't want carpet beetles. They sound horrendous. So far, I haven't found any more damaged yarn, but I've just been putting everything in the freezer and then putting it in plastic bags, putting it in the freezer and taking it back out. I have not skeined up every single yarn, and I only discovered the issue with that yarn when I skeined it up. I have since, and I'll try and put some footage in, I have since taken that yarn out of the freezer, and the very first section of that yarn when my mum was visiting, we were pulling at the end and it just came apart. Like, I'd get about that much yarn and it would separate. I'd pull it again and it would separate. That's when we discovered this bug thing. Quickly put it in the freezer and ignored it. Now I've taken it out. I pulled it and a massive chunk of it just came apart from the rest of the skein. So I put that aside. Then I wound it around a chair and sat outside, and it took me 2 hours to get that skein untangled, and I was winding up the ball and it didn't break for a good long time. I haven't weighed it yet, but I'd say I got about 30 grams before it broke again, and then I got another like maybe 20 grams. So there is some that's salvageable. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a moth or a bug or if it was damaged before I bought it. I have absolutely no idea, but some of it has been rescued. It's back in the freezer just for sheer panic, but I do want to use it because it was kind of expensive. Not like extortionate, but like 10 or 12 euro. No, I think it was 10 or 12 pounds, so like 12-15 euro. I'm just a bit nervous that what if I knit something and it just disintegrates? Like, what if the problem is the wool or the batch of that wool and it just randomly breaks? I don't know. So I won't put it into anything precious, but I do want to use it in something. So that is the update. But as a result of that, everything is in plastic bags. It's really ugly, but I'm so freaked out now that there could be anything munching on my yarn that everything is in a bag. I've got a couple of boxes below this table with some yarn, but I actually just don't have enough boxes to put the yarn in. So I need to do some knitting, and then that problem will be pushed to the bedroom, where I will need to buy some kind of box and storage system for all my hand knit jumpers, which are getting out of control. I have not got enough space in my wardrobe. In reality, I'd love like a beautiful big wood cedared chest or chest of drawers. That is in dreamland. Reality is I would need some kind of plastic boxes. Also, I have some cedar blocks and they've lost their smell, and I know that you need to sandpaper them down, but I have some sandpaper and it does nothing. If I rub the cedar wood on it, you don't get any new smell from it, nothing changes. So I don't know, is there like special cedar block sanding paper? Do you know? I have lavender sachets and stuff, but nothing really, the smells don't stay for very long. I used to use some scrap fabric and just put drops of cedar oil or drops of lavender and put that into places, but again, they don't really last that long. I feel like this is a really weird episode. Like it's not like a normal one, but I haven't got anything new to show you because I haven't done anything except this tea. So I suppose I will just finish up here and hope that sometime soon I'll have something new and exciting to show you. Well, thank you for watching this rather strange and boring YouTube video, and I hope I have more exciting things to show you next time. Let me know what you are knitting while watching in the comments below. And oh, and before I forget, don't forget the Vintage Make Along 2024. I'm hosting that on Instagram and on Ravelry. For some reason, Instagram is just only showing my posts and no one else's. It does occasionally show other people's, but if you put your post in there, tag me and I will put it in my highlights on my Instagram, and it will stay there forever and ever. And hopefully at some point the algorithm will understand that not everyone just wants to see my knits, they also want to see your knits. But if Instagram is not your thing, or if the algorithm is driving you as insane as it is me, you can also add your pictures to the Ravelry thread. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.